Content warning. The stories and themes shared throughout this podcast may contain themes that can be distressing for you. If needed, please pause and do what you need to do to take care of yourself. If needed, please reach out to a mental health professional for support.
Welcome back to another episode of Resilient AF with Blair and Alana and Sam. It's not very often that we all get to be here together. Well, Sam's never here with us. This is her first time, but Alana and I don't have the opportunity to interview our guests together very often because of our schedules. And we worked really hard at making sure that we did this one together because we fell in love with Samantha Rose. So she's an Emmy award-winning television producer and a New York Times, USA Today, and internationally best-selling ghostwriter of nearly 20 titles. And some have been selected as Reese's Book Club, Target bookmark picks. Because we don't have Target. I don't even know what that is. And feature in the Wall Street Journal, Oprah.com, Harper's Bazaar. She's the principal of Yellow Sky Media, an editorial agency in California where she lives with her son. And her newest release, which is what brought us here today, is Giving Up the Ghost. And it is an award-winning book. She won Best Memoir at the 2025 San Francisco Book Festival. And this is the first book you've written under your name. And I just want to say how I met you. Because it wasn't just like, okay, so we met at a grief conference and we both decided to do like a meditation. And we sit down on cushion. I sat down on a cushion next to you and we sat down and I was eating nuts and I started choking. And so like choking at the beginning of a meditation is like obviously not ideal. And I was like trying to like ask Sam questions like, what's your name? What do you do? Like, who are you? But I almost died. Like I had to, I was a big choke. Like I almost left the meditation, but I stayed there and sat on the cushion on the cold floor, got through it. And at the end of the meditation, we had an opportunity to share, what brought us there. And I said Sharon and Leonard. And I was waiting for you to say something and you didn't. And so it opened up the door for us to be able to talk about who you are and what brought you there and what you do. And I'm glad I choked and I didn't leave because then we just were attached at the hip the rest of the conference. And it was just so beautiful. So, Sam, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. It was to clarify a sound bath.
Oh, yes, right.
So the choking at the beginning of the sound bath was extra fun.
Yeah, it was for first to test everyone's nervous system that was already shot.
Oh boy. Also, it's funny that you said, Blair, I almost died because if you were to have died at the grief conference,
Super meta.
it
But I
would have
mean,
been a
like, that's
very
me.
good,
Like,
yeah,
I make
it'd been a good
impressions.
death. Hmm.
Um, and what I thought was super interesting, Sam, is you're like, oh, I wrote a book, Giving Up the Ghost. And then you also said that you were a ghostwriter. And I was like, whoa, that's so meta. And yeah, and then you met Alana after the sound bath choke meditation
Hmm.
bonding, and we had lunch together, and we got to spend the whole next day together, and it was just really magical. And Alana and I both have copies of your book. I've been listening to it. Alana's read it with her eyes. She
I
actually started
did.
reading it as soon as she got back to the hotel room, and like to the point where like I was talking to her and she wasn't even paying attention because she was so into your book.
I love that.
It
I
was, yeah. And I had not, like, I listened to a lot of books and I do read a lot of books, but I had been in a slump of like physically reading books. So thank you.
thank you. It was such a pleasure to meet you both, and it was made the conference so fun. And um, what an amazing weekend that was, or midweek, or whatever it was. I'd never been to a grief conference, so it was all new to me. Uh,
Yeah.
and it might have been cool if No, it wouldn't have been cool if the paramedics came in to rush you off. But if they did, it might have felt just like this is what happens at a grief conference. I didn't know the difference.
Yeah. I mean, I'm glad they didn't. I'm glad I like pulled through. But okay, so let's talk
Me
about
too.
something. Your mom died.
Correct.
What happened?
So what happened? Okay. My mom, Susan,
Susan.
she was a journalist and a book author and a radio personality and a feminist and a public facing personality in Northern California, where I live. And she died by suicide in the early spring of 2020. So it happened to be about 3 weeks before pandemic lockdown in California. And she and I had always been close. We were close when I was a little kid, and we were really close as adults. We were colleagues and pals, and I had spoken to her that morning, and I was shocked, as a death like that is always shocking, complicated and shocking. And so I began thinking and journaling and writing about what happened pretty soon afterwards, which eventually became the book.
Mm. I thank you for sharing with us, and also thank you for sharing in the book. Um, I really appreciate it. I found the book very authentic, and even though I had just met you, like I found that it was very authentically you. And this is my favorite fact in this book. You know what I'm gonna say, is that your mom coined the term bad hair day.
Isn't that amazing?
I can't get over it.
She at least was the first person to write it down. So
Hmm.
whether or not she invented the phrase, I guess that's up for debate. But she was the first on record to write about Bad Hair Day. And as I write about in the book, she was endlessly obsessed with her hair. She thought it was either too flat or too frizzy or thinning, or, she always had the latest, greatest mousses and gels and all the things. And so the fact that she was credited for Bad Hair Day was just perfectly appropriate. And she was very proud of it.
Hmm.
Oh, Alana, you have more questions.
It's just about the bad hair day. It
Okay.
doesn't, like, we don't need to, I don't need to ask it.
Ask it. Why not?
I was just gonna say, like, do you remember like the date of when it was like first coined, like the year approximately?
Don't. I'd have to look it up. I should know that. I want to say it was mid to late 80s, perhaps.
Mm, yeah, the 80s, it was a big time
Yeah.
for hair, so that makes sense.
Mhm. I
Um,
actually have a hat now. You can get trucker hats that say Bad Hair Day, and I often am wearing a hat because I often obsess about my hair not being fluffy enough or flat enough or all the things.
I love that. And I think what you do, like, because I'm listening to the book, because I like listening and I could retain it better because of my ADHD. Reading, sometimes I have to read the same thing over and over again. But the way you write, it feels like we're there with you, and we're like when you have these flashbacks to you and your mom spending time together, or you take yourself to like when you're in your grief, it feels like we're right there with you. And this morning, I was thinking about something that you said in the book that actually really resonates because us too, we have a dead mom.
Mhm.
Sharon and Susan are probably hanging out right now.
Yeah.
And
Maybe fluffing each other's hair.
yeah,
They're
mom's
great.
having Susan put the color in her roots.
Yeah.
Um, but you were talking about how you look like your mom.
Mhm.
And it's really interesting to me because I just had this conversation with someone. I apparently look a lot like my mom, our mom, but neither my mom or I could ever see it, ever. And ever since she died, which has been almost 5 years ago, I still can't see it, but sometimes I'll walk by a mirror and my peripheral sees it, and then I go back to look for it and it's not there. But I've noticed it more happening as I get older and like in her death. And not just that, but when I'm back in my hometown of Winnipeg, I've been stopped by strangers who I don't know, who are like, "Why do you look so familiar? Do I know you? Or are you Sharon's daughter?" And it's all because we look like this. And I used to want to have a nose job. And I recently realized I don't actually want to have that anymore because it would change the way I look to a point of like losing a feature that connected me a lot to my mom.
Mhm.
Like I don't want to I don't want to like there's things I wanted to change because I didn't like, but now that it connects me to her, Do you find that you notice that you're looking more like her now since she's passed away like almost like half a decade ago?
Well, I didn't realize we had the similarity. So she died, well, it'll be coming up on 6 years. But when the book came out, it was almost to the anniversary date of her 5 year
Mm.
death day. People always remarked that we looked alike. I mean, I guess after, in my 30s and 40s, people noticed it more as I was an adult. But certainly since she passed, I noticed it more. And in the beginning, I thought maybe it was because in her absence, there was only one of us now. And so I was looking like her because she wasn't around anymore. Um, I don't know if that's true, but I definitely started seeing more of her in me. And I was nervous about that in the beginning because we do look strikingly alike. And I worried that that would upset people. That when
Mm,
they saw me, they would immediately feel the absence of her. And I was almost apologetic about looking like her. But
mm,
now I'm so glad I do. Um, and I miss having that reflection of her to look back at me. And she used to always say that, and I read about this in the book, that when she looked at me, she saw the younger version of herself. And I would look at her and I could see how I would look as an older woman. And I thought that was cool because I thought she was beautiful and charming and invigorated. And she just had a buoyancy and a spirit about her. But there was a time in there where it was almost hard to look at myself. But now I'm glad. It does take me aback sometimes. There'll be certain expressions or a certain way I wear my hair or something. I wear scarves. She always wears scarves, and I'll think, oh my God, I really do look like her. But like you, I mean, I wouldn't want to change it. We're carrying on their legacy in our physicality, among other things, right?
Completely. Yeah, there's like the physical parts and then there's the personality parts. And when a lot of the times when people are teenagers or younger, they try and push back to those parts of the personality of their parents and say I don't identify, I will never do this, I will never be like this. Then as you get older, there's parts of you that all of a sudden are kind of like your mom, for better or for worse. And I wonder if you've been experiencing that too.
The personality pieces.
Yeah.
Yeah. I write so much I write about our differences in the book and that I
Hmm.
compare her to a sun. She was such a bright light and people gravitated towards her. She just gave off an energy. And in sort of studying myself and reflecting on our dynamic through the writing, I realized that I had unconsciously been the moon to her sun. I'd always sort of taken a step back and been a less visible person. And I am more introverted than to her extrovert. And I am a little more, not dim, but not maybe as shiny and overtly bright as my mom. Um, and that's something I reflected on and learned a little. I think that clarity came after really she
Hmm.
died. Um, but I've realized that we're actually more similar than I thought. I'll catch myself with my son. He often will say to me, "Oh my God, Mom, you love everything." Like it's a pet. Um, and I think, oh, that's so funny because that's kind of how I felt about my mom. She was just, consummately optimistic and upbeat. I don't know. I see the differences. I think I've become more myself on the other side of her death, which is an unexpected sort of bittersweet gift. Of course, I'd still wish that she were here, but I think I am more me.
Mhm.
Um, but in that, I am also seeing how similar we are, if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
I love that. And what's actually coming up for me here is, your mom was this media personality and this front-facing writer where you're this ghost writer. So you were that complete opposite, the duality, and it took her dying for you to publish the first book under your name.
That's
And
right.
would you have ever done that? Like what, like the like there's I don't want to say gift. I
Well,
believe in all darkness and all the storms. There's always silver linings, sometimes thinner than others. But I like to say, like, my mom dying brought me back to life and showed me that I don't need to live a life I want to retire from and made me reevaluate everything. And for you, I mean, you are a writer just like her, but behind the scenes, being the ghost writer. And her departure, it's like opened up these gates for you to step forward and claim your public facing voice.
100%. And my grief counselor, who plays a prominent role, as you know, in the book, Rabbi
Mhm.
B, he would say it's a gift. He'd say, it's not the gift you wanted, but it's the gift that you got. And her death did force me out of the shadows. And I had, for a couple of years, I guess, leading up to her death, I'd been wanting to write something of my own, but I didn't know what that would be. And I wasn't sure what story I would tell. And then all of a sudden, you know, on a random Tuesday, I get a story dropped on my doorstep, and it's not the one I wanted to tell, but it's the one that showed up. And I realized it was the right one to tell. And um, in the writing of it, yes, I have to confront the piece of me that is more than a professional ghost, that I had become a ghost in many aspects of my life, in my marriage, and in many, many layers. I had diminished and withdrawn and become quiet. And this was pushing me forward and out to speak up and to say what she wasn't able to say. She was an outspoken woman, but when it came to her mental health, she held back. And so the story I had to tell was one of honesty, even though it was hard.
Mm. Yeah. I I think actually, you left me speechless there. I agree. I
I think
concur.
like yeah I mean I'm never speechless so I'll step in here.
Enter
You-
Blair.
Enter me. Do you dream?
I have very vivid dreams. I dream almost every night, and I remember pieces and parts of them almost always. And I always thought everyone did that. And my
That's
sister, my sister Greta has, she doesn't remember anything. And I think that's so weird because I have this whole other life that happens when I go to sleep.
So it's interesting because I don't know what it's called, but like when someone says close your eyes and like picture an apple, like I know an apple's there, but I can't see anything. But in my dreams, I'm like you, I dream almost every night and it's so vivid and I mostly remember them. And like it's like it's this whole other life. But then why can't I close my eyes in my awake life and like see things? And like I just know they're there. I know there's an apple, but I can't see it. Anyways, very interesting. But the reason I'm asking is one, yes, you dream and you remember them, and that's amazing. But two, does Susan come to you in your dreams?
Well, she, as you know, she came to me in my dreams, and that takes the story in a whole different turn in part two of the book. So for those of you listening who haven't read it, um, I start having vivid dreams about my mom, and the first vivid dream actually had to do with her hair. And I remember I woke up and I was like, what? It was so vivid and it seemed so her. And I'll mention it since we touched on it, Bad Hair Day, but she came to me in the dream and she had this amazing, like celestial swirl of silvery hair. And she's like,
Mm.
do you like my hair? And it was such a thing that she would say. And she was so like smug and proud about the fact that now that she was dead, she finally had good hair. And it was so her that I thought, I wonder if this is more than just my mind making things up.
Mm.
And so I started inviting her like intentionally into my dreams, and she started showing up. And so I decided to write the dreams down, and then they become this back and forth dialogue that we started in the dream space, and then I start channeling onto the page and enlisting my ghostwriter skills of listening for the other person's voice and creating a living dialogue on the page. But truly, I dreamt about her, I want to say every night for probably almost 2 years.
Mm.
And then they started being more scattered dreams. But I did dream about her just a few nights ago. She was younger. I don't remember. She always looks great and has wise things to say. And I wake up and I'm missing her. But
Mm.
I feel that I feel it. I feel that she's there somewhere
Mm.
out there.
Do you still write about the dreams when she comes to say hi?
Not as much unless it's something that feels profound, or the scene is especially interesting. But if she just makes what think is like a cameo, like here I am popping in and out, I don't necessarily write them down.
Do you think this experience of your mom dying and you writing this book and then like, basically not ghostwriting, but ghostwriting, um, like writing this story because of, your mom and the experience. And I'm assuming all the other books you've written until then were completely different and that spirits and energy necessarily weren't showing up in your dreams. But I don't know. I don't know your process. But would you say this experience changed the way you show up as a ghostwriter?
That's a good question. Um, Interesting. I don't know that my process is different. It definitely reinvigorated my approach. I was getting a little resentful, to be honest, about ghostwriting leading up to this, because I've written almost 20 books now, and uh, I was itching to write my own story. And I think there was a part of me that was aware of this ghost-like quality that had overtaken my life, even though I wasn't maybe consciously aware of it, where I felt like I was losing my voice in an effort to give everyone else a voice.
Mm.
And I have since returned to ghosting for other people. And I don't feel resentful. I feel now that I've identified my own voice and I'm still going to nurture it and continue to write, that I can bring this specialized writing to other people. And I love actually being able to give voice to other people's stories. And I mean, there's also a very voyeuristic aspect to it that I find entertaining, where I'm able to really get inside people's lives and heads and learn about things that I wouldn't have known about otherwise. So I don't know that it's changed how I ghostwrite, but I think just my willingness and interest in continuing to do it has come back.
I, I,
So,
oh, You go.
Okay. I'm thinking you talk about one of the folks you ghost wrote for and kind of just immersing yourself in their life. And I think about that, and then I think about when your mom was visiting and writing about that. And there are those similarities in a way, except you're not immersing yourself in their life. You're just immersing yourself more in your life and your attunement to yourself, which I think is very cool.
Mhm. Yeah, I think I worried that I had lost my voice.
Mm.
I didn't even know what it was anymore. And um, that was exciting for me to locate that voice and realize I had one, and I wanted to exercise it. Ghostwriting my mom was similar to how I work with people who are living, most of
Mhm.
my clients who are living, and where I'm able to somehow really listen. I mean, it's, I guess, not that complicated, but it takes listening and then being able to really hear what the person says and putting your own stuff over here on the back burner. So
Okay, that's amazing. And I'm so jealous that you were able to channel your
Mhm.
mom. It's like just something I'm trying to tap into and like I can't.
I think we all can. I mean, I'm not, I mean, you did mention Blair earlier, my other projects. I have written 4 other books for a psychic medium who is a legitimate medium. I mean, she channels the dead, and I am not that. I am not a medium or a psychic or any of that. Um, but I had learned from her and eventually came to really believe that we all can do this, not as easily, I guess, as someone like her.
Mm,
Um, but that it is possible to continue to have a conversation with our loved ones who have passed on. And often it just takes quieting our minds, which is easier said than done, and inviting them in.
yeah. You've just inspired me to like try and like practice and work on that muscle again. Because I feel like it's like I'm close. But then like Sharon, will she leave me alone? Like I know that, she in her like when she was Earthside, I know how she was. She was always here. And okay, so wild story. Okay, I don't know if you read my post about Tasha. Speaking of channeling, do you want to hear like a little side quest?
Yes,
Okay,
please.
so we
Oh,
podcasted with
yeah.
Tasha and Soraya.
Okay.
And
And we met
Soraya,
Tasha because of Sam.
yeah, we met Tasha in an Uber at the Grief Conference because of
We
Sam,
all
and
hung out
we
together.
just all hung
Mhm.
out together. So then we met Tasha's daughter, and we're putting them in our next book, and we had them on our podcast. And we learned that as Soraya's in hospice, and you guys will hear her episode unless you've already listened to it. And as she gets weaker, her ability to feel energy and see spirits is getting stronger. And Soraya doesn't, she's 13. She doesn't know much about mine and Alana's story. And what is so wild is, and I don't know how much you know about it, but we just published a book about tattoos. So
It
Resilient
does
AF.
arrive on my doorstep today.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
And
So,
one of my 26 intentions is to get my first tattoo. I am a unicorn or a virgin or whatever you tatted people call it. And it's happening. I'm meeting with my guy Wednesday.
and then you can be in our
Exciting.
next tattoo book.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
I'll have my full body tattoo by then.
I love that. I can't wait
Ooh.
to see or not see you or fully see you. So, anyways, the reason this book started, and this is like, we have other anthologies, but the reason this book started is because, well, I've been covered in tattoos since I was in high school, but I got a specific tattoo. And the tattoo is when I was in grade 5, I won an award for being a nice person. This is a photo of it if you're watching the video. And I found this and I won the Mensch Award. And I was like, and I went to FaceTime Alana because we live in different cities to show her this. And I turned it
Let me just
around.
have that photo at the ready. Like,
Well, because on the back of it was a note that says, proud of you. And our mom wrote this. I just got goosebumps every time I tell the story. Our mom wrote that 30 years ago, and I had no idea she wrote that message. And it was the message that she would always say to me every day, all day long. And like, it's missing from my life. And there's a noticeable like gap of that. And I was getting ready to hike a 100-kilometer hike, 7-day hike, because I don't know, I thought I was sporty there. And I found that about a month before, and I was like, oh my God, I'm going to tattoo that on my leg. So when I want to quit, I can look down and see the message. And then I got the tattoo and I started sharing it on social. And anytime anyone on social saw that post, they would then share with me their story of their tattoo. Okay. And I was like, that's crazy. And then I tested it out a couple more times, and I always got flooded with stories of tattoos and the why they got them. So that's why this book exists. Alana loved it so much that I ended up getting her a necklace with says "Proud of You" made on it. We started a clothing line under our clothing called the Sharon Collection, which says "Proud of You." It's a hat. We have a few things. Okay. Tasha and Soraya knew none of this. And so a few days after we did our podcast, I got a text from Tasha saying that she checked in with Soraya and she didn't even see a picture of what our mom looks like. Said, "Hey, do you have any messages from Blair and Alana's mom?" And she looks up from her iPad and goes, "Proud of you.
Oh,
Proud of how strong you sisters are."
wow.
Mm.
Wow.
So Sharon might not be showing up to me, but she's showing up to Soraya. But
Uh,
how wild is that story?
I would say it's like an unbelievable wow moment, except I believe it.
I mean,
Mhm.
it's like it's not that yeah, and that it's not unbelievable in the not believable, but like you
But
can't not
wow.
believe in it because
Yeah.
that is so like that is in your face.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It sounds like Sarai is just like the veil or
Mhm.
whatever you want to call it between
Hmm.
this world and the next is just
Yeah.
more thin, which you hear about with children
Hmm.
and young children, and also with people who are maybe on the edge of this world and the next world.
Yeah.
Right. I know. And I just thought it was so special, and it just shows like our mom is showing up and communicating, at least trying like is communicating through whatever channel she can. Um did you know like when your mom started coming to you in your dreams and then you started channeling your mom, like did you know you had that ability?
No, and I mean, it's funny, I'm still skeptical. Um, and even though I've written 4 books with this pretty well-known medium, and I know, quote unquote, how it works, and I believe her absolutely that she's able to do this, and that it's real, and I believe in the unseen world. And when it comes to me, there's still a piece of me that's like, yeah, but I don't know. Um, but then in the writing, it felt believable enough that I had to make a decision at one point, because these journals, sort of ramblings that were really just the conversations that B and I were having. I was taking notes because he had so many great things to say, and I do think he has some of the best lines in the book.
Mhm.
Um, that this was becoming a book, and I thought, I don't know what people are going to think of this, and I really hesitated in the beginning to write it because I worried about the skepticism of, you're writing in your dead mother's voice, how dare you? And um, I had to kind of hush those critics because it really felt real to me. And whether it was real or how real or what percentage of real it was helping me. And I thought, well, if it's helping me heal and it's helping me understand my mother more and understand myself more and get over the hump of being just absolutely enraged about what had happened to her, then I'm going to do it. I'm going to write it, and suspend disbelief and let readers decide for themselves what's going on there.
Yeah, I think that's amazing. So, are you going to write any more books under your name, or do you feel like the itch is scratched?
No, it is scratched, but once you scratch an itch, you
Wow.
usually find a new itch.
Oh,
That
I
is true.
think. Um, I'm going to say that's true. So yes, and I'm not sure what that will be, but it's something I want to get to this year.
I love that. Okay, so now just first of all, if you're listening to this, please go listen to or read her book. It's so well done.
It looks like this.
Giving Up the Ghost. Her info is in the show notes. I'll make sure there's a link to your website in the show notes. And we met, like, this is how I like to roll in life, even though we didn't plan to meet. I meet people, I like vibe, whatever. And then eventually, like, I add them on social and then, like, learn who they, like, learn about the things I didn't learn about when we meet.
Hmm.
And, like, you've written books, like, that are on Oprah's website and Reese. But I had no idea till just now when I was reading your bio that you've won an Emmy.
I've won two, almost three Emmys.
Almost three.
Whoa, what does almost mean?
What
Like
is,
you were
okay, wait, let's
nominated?
talk about this. Sorry, like,
I
okay,
was
like,
nominated. No, so yeah, nominated.
that's
Well, that's
huge.
still really big.
You call it almost one though, don't you think?
Yeah, almost one. You were like one in
You're like
five.
a bridesmaid.
Yeah.
I was a bridesmaid, never a bride. That's my
No, but
motto.
she was the bride twice.
Kate,
Yeah. Two marriages, almost a third. That's
what are you
yeah.
able to share what you won those Emmys for, or are they secret?
No, they're not secrets. I mean, they were for a regional. I used to work in television, news broadcast in the San Francisco Bay Area, and they were Emmys for that producing and writing work. So it wasn't like I was,
No, no, stop.
okay. I mean,
That's
You
a
there
big
won, and
deal.
that's
wasn't a red
amazing.
carpet. Just saying, there wasn't like a gown. I mean, there should have been. Maybe. Well, I dressed up when I received those Emmys.
Do you have like the physical, like, did
I
you get to
do.
keep it? Oh
I
my
do.
gosh, that's
Why isn't it
very cool.
behind you? I need to see it.
Oh, by the way, here it is. Oh, you thought this was a microphone. No, it's actually my Emmy.
Is that why it's not
That's why
working?
there's the echo.
Oh my God. Okay, so that's amazing. I also, I'm a vintage millennial who grew up in Jersey Shore, and when I did go to your website, I saw that you worked with Vinny, and we talked about that offline, and you just shared like praise for like how down to earth he was, and
You
I
have the best.
yeah, I've Jersey Shore was a huge part of my life. Like I'm like their age, like that's just my what I grew up watching. Grew up like I was already an adult. I was in my 20s, but I just think it's so amazing that you're in the world of ghostwriting and you're when and some of the books on your website you share, which means you're allowed to share that you're involved with them. And obviously there's probably many that you can't because of NDAs and whatnot. Is there any project that you're allowed to share about that you're the most proud of
Ooh,
besides your own book?
that's my own. I am pretty proud of that. They're all so different, and I really have liked them all. My most proud. Well, I've loved doing all the work with the medium I talked about. That's Rebecca Rosen. She's out of Denver. Um, I wrote a couple books with a woman named Eve Rodsky. We wrote Fair Play together and Find Your Unicorn Space, and that was a great project, and we hope to do a third together.
Hmm.
I mean, some of the best projects are when I get to work with people more than one time.
Yeah.
And I've been able to do that a few times. And that's just so fun because, I mean, by book three or four, you really have someone's voice in your head, right? And
Completely.
so it's a bit of an easier lift in that way. But then there's you've got to think about what you're going to iterate when you get into like the third or the fourth or the fifth book with somebody. But those relationships have become really important. I mean, I think one of the things about ghostwriting that people don't always know, well, most people don't know much about ghostwriting, is how intimate the relationship is. And writing a book takes time, and we're usually in it together for at least a year, if not longer, and having lots of conversations and I get to really know these people, and I've I've stayed in a lot of their homes and visited with them, and like with Vinny, we actually didn't meet each other until the book was published, and I flew back east, and they had me over for Italian Sunday night dinner on Staten Island with him and his
Oh
family.
my gosh.
I love that.
So much fun.
Was his uncle there? Uncle.
Uncle, and what is his uncle's name? Yes, and was wearing, the white tank
Yeah.
and drinking red wine. I mean, it was just so perfect.
That's
So, I
awesome.
mean, that part of the work feels really rewarding, and I would not have access to people like that had I not been a ghostwriter.
I think that's so cool. And, you don't have to be a celebrity to work with Sam. Like,
No, no.
and you do coaching, you do support in other ways. You have other services available and it's all on your website. And Alana and I are working on this book proposal. I'm like, oh, maybe we should work with Sam if there's a
Yes,
budget, which is zero right now. But,
Maybe there will be a budget.
there will be a budget because we're going to sign a TV deal.
well,
Yeah, we are.
But I just think like you're phenomenal and your writing is phenomenal. And like not only do I think that, but the fact is like that Alana literally opened your book the minute we got back to her hotel room and started reading and fully blocked me out tells me how good it is because Alana multitasks.
I do. And it was after my meds had worn off,
wow, wow.
which I think really speaks
I think I need a
to your
review
captivating.
because couldn't put it down even after my meds wore off.
Yeah, that should
Yeah.
go on the cover of your of
That's a
the
perfect
Yeah.
endorsement.
Alana Kaplan.
Ignored my
ADHD.
sister for 24 hours.
Yes.
I love that. So as we wrap up, do you have any final questions, Alana? Because I have one final question.
You go ahead.
What advice do you have for someone who went through something similar to you, who loses someone that they love, like a parent, to suicide? What advice do you have for them in bouncing forward in moving forward with life?
Well, first, I would say I'm very sorry. And it really sucks. Like losing a parent is devastating and heartbreaking. And it's been the hardest thing I've had to deal with in my life. Um, and doubled by the fact that my mom and I were so close. And I have to acknowledge not everyone has a relationship like that with their mom, but I think whatever the relationship, losing a parent is very, very hard. Um, I would say the best thing I did for myself was to give grief space and time, to give it attention. I talk about how grief is impatient and it will wait you out. It will stick around and it will, it will be there. So giving it your presence, even though that's really hard, but I think avoiding it is almost harder. At least I worried about that myself. I worried about how hard it was going to come back and bite me if I didn't just sit with it. So someone said to me, I gave advice like this recently, and one woman asked, like, well, sometimes I sit down with my cup of coffee and I let myself feel missing my mom and I might cry for a minute and then I'm on to the rest of my day. And I just don't know, what more I can do. And I said, well, that's enough. I mean, I'm not talking about like quitting your job and like sobbing in the corner of your room for 6 months without living also, but it just means giving it acknowledgement and feeling it. And if that is rage or inappropriate laughter, I tend to go into dark humor in times like this.
Mm.
um that's enough, but give it something, and that will help.
That's
That really
beautiful
helps.
advice. That's beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna listen back to that again and again.
Yeah, I feel like grief and I became close partners, and it felt like its own presence in, the room. Like it was another person that was like, I want to be acknowledged, and I am not leaving until you at least say, hi, okay, I see you. I will get back to you in a minute. I see you, but I now have to go take a shower.
Yeah. Grief. Like, I feel like also, I mean, this could be a whole nother conversation, but there's grief and then there's the grief of your mom.
No.
And I feel like it's its own category because we are like part of them. Like literally, like I feel like we have this umbilical cord, when we're born and it's cut, and then when our mom dies, there's this other umbilical cord that's cut. And it's a very disorienting feeling.
Disorienting.
And then there's the primary grief, and then there's like the secondary griefs that come with it. Like, oh, she's never gonna get to see this, or never gonna get to do that again, or whatnot. So, yeah, that's a bigger conversation, and we're wrapping up. So,
Well,
I mean,
so on that note, losing your mom is terrible.
one
yes.
last thing on that, and I know we're wrapping up too, but for suicide is a different kind of grief. It's not better
Yeah.
or worse or than any other, but it is complicated. And I think for those of us who are survivors of suicide, we have to get to a point where we get past the grieving of the how they left this earth before we, at least I'll speak for myself, before I could get to actually missing her. Once I was able to spend some time just being in grief about the suicide, I then moved into just being able to miss her. And actually, that was a much more welcome grief.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And thank you for sharing that, Sam.
Thank you so much.
Well, this was fun.
We get to hang out again.
We do. And thanks to everyone who tuned in
Yeah.
and listened to us shoot the shit and talk about the hard stuff and the beautiful stuff and everything in between. Sam, thank you for being a guest.
Thanks for having me.
Thank
And
you.
to everyone who tuned in, thank you for listening and for spending your precious time with us. Remember, it's okay to not be okay. Let us be that lighthouse in the storm. You will get through it, and you are resilient AF. That's a wrap for another episode of Resilient AF with Blair and Alana. And thank you for listening. Are you feeling inspired to bounce forward?
Let's connect at theglobalresilienceproject.com, where you can read many stories of resilience, buy our books, shop our clothing line, learn more about how to strengthen your resilience muscle, be empowered, and more.
Remember, friends, you are resilient AF.